Hey, Michael J.
And Modern Horizons 2, just nothing exciting got announced at all, right? Like, literal zero exciting cards.
I saw a number of people that were, like, praising Modern Horizons 2, or Modern Horizon 2's restraint. But, we'll see how much restraint it's looking like now. This week was apparently the powerful cards week.
Like, I haven't even gone through all the cards yet. Like, some of them people are like, oh my god, they reprinted Flame Rift. And I'm like, yo, if you were just on the red aggro train, that is not anywhere near the exciting stuff.
Well, on that topic, what about Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, the red legendary 2-1 monkey pirate? And it's like, okay, red for a legendary 2-1 monkey pirate. Already I'm interested in, right? Like, it's no drawback, and it's got good types, right? I mean, monkeys, whatever, but like pirate is a good type, and it's a legend. Obviously, that can be a drawback, but it can be upside. But wait, there's more. When Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. That's awesome. Then it's like a bird of paradise, right? Oh, wait.
You should keep reading.
And exile the top card of that player's library until end of turn you may cast that card. What?
Yeah.
So, like, this guy hits you, you get a Lotus Petal, and you can play their top card for the turn?
Let me just spin you a little tale. This is what I was thinking about Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. By the way, you didn't finish reading the card, but we can get back to that.
And keep in mind, you can't play land off their deck, just so you know. It is just cast.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to save the last bit for...
I mean, okay, just say it right now, and then we'll get back to my little story.
Dash, 1 in a red. So you can actually just play this for 2 mana, sneak in there, hit him for 2, get yourself a treasure token, and who knows, maybe even play the top card of their deck, particularly if you're playing a powerful format where cards cost 1 a lot.
Yeah. So
since then you could, just play the 1-cost card with the treasure you just made.
So here's a situation. You're like, all right, I'm going to go first turn Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. They're going to go first turn Hallowed Fountain, tapped, obviously. Right? So I'm like, okay.
I love that you're talking about Hallowed Fountain. Okay,
yeah, it's tapped. Right?
It's not even Tundra. This is obviously a legacy staple, but keep going.
So then I swing in. This is a Modern Horizons 2 card. I swing in, tag them, make myself a treasure, look at the top card of my library, kind of laugh to myself, play one of my fetch lands.
Of that player's library.
Oh, that player's library, yeah. I look at it, because they just played, not Taiga, they played Hallowed Mountain. Kind of laughed to myself.
So you exile it.
Yeah, play my fetch land and cast their Teferi. That's what I think this card is going to do. This card is ridiculous. It's like double Ophidian for 1 mana dealing 2 damage. Like, one of the cards you draw with the Ophidian is always a Lotus Petal, right? That's not bad. You got 2.
And the other one is one that's not in your deck, and you have to play it this turn. So it's not like that's as good as a card.
Yeah, but this is a red card that costs 1, not a blue card that costs 3 that, doesn't deal any damage. I think this card is in the running for best offensive red 1-drop of all time.
Card seems amazing.
Like, fantastic. And I mean, this is coming from the world's loudest Monastery Swift Spear apologist.
Yep. And when you see this guy is kind of like, I mean, he hits hard, but he's definitely got a lot of Deathrite Shaman in him for a Goblin Guide, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Like, is there a degree to which Ragavan changes how decks are built, right? Like, is the existence of a card like this change? Like, oh, well, I need to have more kill cards? Like, I might... Maybe not, right? I'm so worried.
Well, no. If it changes the landscape so that more people are playing 1-drops, this is like... this is like a pretty must-kill 1-drop, right? Like, that's very different than what we see in Modern in general, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like,
this is a hard card to just not kill. Like, a lot of 1-drops, you're like, okay, I guess I'm going to take 2 or 3 a turn, right? But, like, this is a really hard card to not react to.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the treasures are coming up, which are going to help Ragavan cast your stuff, and presumably all the stuff you think all the stuff in your deck is good. That's why you played those cards. It's very different than, just somebody dealing, 1 point of damage before prowess triggers. I don't know. This card is incredible to me.
Now, here's a nice little cherry on top. You know how playing Robber of the Rich is like kind of a sweet transformational sideboard plan? Well, imagine playing Ragavan out of your sideboard.
Like out of like a control-ish deck sideboard?
Right. Out of a control deck or a combo deck. Some deck with like no creatures or no cheap creatures. You just play Ragavan and then like, why would your opponent have Fatal Push still in their deck? And now you're getting treasures every turn in addition to getting extra cards?
Oh, that's filthy. You're a combo deck and you're getting treasures?
Isn't that so sick?
It sounds like how you would win a big event. Maybe not a Pro Tour, but
this card seems amazing. This card seems amazing.
I mean, it's...
What do you think? Do you like it? Is this the best 1-drop in the set?
Oh, I mean, the other red 1-drop is really good also. I think Ragavan is better than the other one, but the other one is also...
So you're talking about the new Dragon's Rage Channeler, right? The Red Delver?
Yeah, the red.
This is red for a 1/1 human shaman. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Surveil 1, which you can look at the top card of your deck, and if you want, you can put it in your graveyard. And then it also has Delirium, where if you have 4 or more card types among card types in your graveyard, Delirium Rage Channeler gets +2/+2 as flying and attacks each combat if able. So this guy's a 1/1 that lets you get some selection, right? But then he flips, so to speak, as long as you can Delirium, and then you get yourself a 3/3 flying, reckless, like a 3/3 flying, I guess just gets in there every turn, threat.
Yeah, so, I mean...
And he still gives you the selection.
Yeah, so Surveil is an interesting card. I mean, obviously, we have a high amount of precedence for prowess with this, right? You have Monastery Swift Spears and Soulscar Mages and, things that proxy that, right? Like, different kind of Niv Magus Elementals or whatever. This is doing Surveil instead. That in and of itself, at least I was like already raising my eyebrow because like that's an ability that we don't commonly see on a red card. I don't know if I've ever seen that on a red card, Surveil. So you start there.
Yeah, it's more of a demure thing.
Yeah, the second thing about it is it's not that you need to Surveil 4 times, right? Like you could just like, Lava Spike them or, Lightning Bolt one of their creatures and then you get a Surveil out of that. That's already, if you use a fetch land, that's like 3 types already.
And who knows? It's not like you don't have access to all kinds of artifact, like, sorcery, instant, creature. And that's, not even counting Mishra's Bauble or Seal of Fire. And you got fetch land, of course.
I mean, those cards Seal of Fire, definitely in there. I mean, the Bauble is going to be in there if you're going to play Allurus of the Dream Den deck. Probably not if you're not playing Allurus of the Dream Den deck. Maybe this seems like it would be a pretty good Allurus of the Dream Den card. I'd have to see what else we're working with. If we're going to go that direction, I might even imagine like a Pyrite Spellbomb somewhere. Like that's
no. The ship has sailed.
All right,
slow.
I imagined it and I unimagined it.
Sorry.
But for sure, we're going Seal of Fire. For sure, we're going to have all kinds of Skewer the Critics, Lightning Bolts, Lava Darts. Lava Darts puts lands in the graveyard also, as well as instant.
So, what do you think? Do you like these 2 red 1-drops better or the green 1-drop? Ignoble Hierarch.
Oh my god, that card is also awesome.
So Ignoble Hierarch is it's a lot like Noble Hierarch, except it's a little bit less noble. It's a Goblin Shaman, so already interesting types, but it's a 0/1 Exalted, and like Noble Hierarch, it makes 3 colors of mana. But the difference here is that you can make red, black, or green instead of blue, white, or green. This card is instant. First of all, it's playable in Vintage, like Noble Hierarch is. Second of all, it's a staple for Legacy, like Noble Hierarch, and every single format it's legal in. The fact that this even has good types is like, I think this card is like, this is going to be a game changer for Goblins.
Oh,
but I also just think you could just play this card in the merits. This card's unbelievable. It's every bit as good as Noble Hierarch.
I didn't even think about playing it in Goblins. That's how I was just thinking about playing it as the Jundish version of Noble Hierarch. But you're right. Goblins is another way you could go with this, and that makes perfect sense.
This is a great card for a Goblin deck, right? Like, it's not like they even have like good 1-drops right now, right? Like, that's a little bit of a weakness, but they're a deck that could really use this mana. If you can get Muxus out early, if you're playing, a format where that's legal, or if you can get out, even just getting out, Ringleaders or Siege Gang Commander or whatever.
Well, imagine
if you got this and Aether Vial, I mean, you're doing it.
Imagine you played Ignoble Hierarch on the first turn, and then you played one of the Infinity 3 casting cost Goblin Lords that have haste that you can play on turn 2, right? You just ran one of those out on turn 2. It even works with the Exalted.
Oh, yeah. Plus, this is a great card to give haste to.
Yeah.
So that later you can just drop it and net mana. Or break even, but like you get the net damage from the Exalted.
So, I obviously think this card is a spectacular card in terms of its tournament playability, impact on formats, including Modern or whatever formats it would be legal in. I agree with you across the board. I mean, any place that you would have seen either Deathrite Shaman or Noble Hierarch or Birds of Paradise, whatever analogs we're talking about being played, Ignoble Hierarch is going to be a great contributor to those decks, especially if they're Jund colors it's like a red-green deck, right? Like, it's better than Noble Hierarch in a red-green deck. Andre Coimbra won the World Championship with a red-green deck playing Noble Hierarch. So this card is spectacular from those perspectives, but I kind of really dislike it because I think it's like a bad design.
What? Why?
Exalted on a Jund creature? A goblin that taps for mana? Like, none of this makes sense to me.
No, goblins already make mana. This guy's
they don't tap for mana. Goblins like green. All right. I mean, I'm all for new things, man. It just doesn't seem right. An Exalted Jund card doesn't bother you at all? Exalted
not at all.
That's the Bant ability.
It was one time a Bant ability back in the early 2000s. Who cares? Dude, you got to space it out. Exalted plays awesome. I think this card's going to play really well. It's going to make games more fun and deck building more interesting.
Well, no doubt this card is going to be a heavy, heavy contributor to people's victories.
But there's other stuff in this. Actually, there's a couple more 1-drops we should talk about. What do you think of switching over to the white 1-drops? What do you think about the Esper Sentinel? White for a 1/1 artifact creature, human soldier. That's some hell of a types. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power.
Oh my gosh. This seems like it would be very annoying for some decks.
Well, sort of. You got to remember, if you're just playing a combo deck, you could just let if they're playing like a humans deck, just start letting them draw a whole bunch of cards.
Yeah, but what if
at the end of the day, you're only drawing one a turn?
No, what if Esper Sentinel is in a control deck sides in Esper Sentinel? They just play it on turn 1 to put a combo deck on the clock. The combo deck has a hard time now just casting their early game Ponder Preordained stuff to set up their big turn. That stuff becomes annoying.
See, I think what you need is a way to pump this guy. Imagine if you're playing this guy and then you're playing either a human deck or a soldier deck or an affinity deck. Right, because if you put a cranial plating on this, now you're doing something.
Oh, wow. I mean, a cranial plating on this is stuff. I mean, anyway, there's multiple white creatures that would, I think, maybe cause us to reimagine Affinity as a white deck instead of as a red deck. I think Esper Sentinel is a very good example of that.
And, it could even be a Boros Affinity deck. But, it works with humans, too. There's plenty of human lords, It's not like those decks are just too long on 1-drops. They got too many 2-drops, but they got, they could afford to pick up a 1-drop. So this card, I think it's not as good as it looks, but it's worth a shot. It's worth a play. It's got so many little things going for it that it's relatively mediocre compared to some of the juice we've talked about. Its rate's just fine. It's not busted like a lot of these things, so it's worth a shot. It's just not a given.
What do you think about it in control? Just non-playable, only in affinity-ish type things?
Or humans or soldiers or something.
Okay, but I was thinking affinity-wise, Arcbound Mauser seems like a playable 1-drop to me.
Oh, plus, if you put +1/+1 counters on this in your affinity deck, yeah. But yeah, so this is that, Arcbound Worker upgrade, right?
Yeah, but it's white, right?
0-0.
So it's not just Arcbound Worker.
It's not just. It's got good types. Cat, you're doing something. But Lifelink. Lifelink is actually a deceptively useful ability for an affinity deck. If you put plating or a bunch of counters on this, it kind of changes the range of your options that you actually have the ability to do a little bit more racing. It reminds me of when you used to be able to play Vault Scourge. Nowadays, you can't really justify Vault Scourge. There's too much competition. But I think this is a really cool addition to affinity in the in the spots where you if you can cast it.
I agree on all points. I think if we were going to reimagine a universe where we were playing a white affinity deck, you said maybe Boros affinity deck. I don't know. Do we really get that much out of red at the point that we're just? All right, I'm a creature deck now. I'm playing all these white creatures. I think I would try it just as a white deck first, because colored mana is semi at a premium in that deck. I guess a lot of things depend, right? But if we're in a white deck, I think that I would just want to play Arcbound Mouser. He seems like he'd be a good man in the white deck. Lifelink plus Cradioplating, Lifelink plus his modular ability, Arcbound Ravager's modular ability, etc. I don't even know how certain fair decks win game one against this card. You just put a bunch of counters on it and attack them, and then even if you kill it, then they just keep the counters.
This is also live. If there's some kind of a Conclave, mentor deck, like a green-white tokens deck. I mean, not green-white tokens, green-white +1/+1 counters. This card could be, this card's got, it brings something to the table that's worth considering.
You mean like a Hardened Scales type green-white deck?
Exactly.
I thought about that as well. It seems a little choppy to me for that kind of, because it's a lot of different things. You're green, you're white, and you're artifacts.
Sort of. Well, no, you're mostly artifacts because you're already playing Walking Ballista, Hangerback Walker, Steelbound Overseer. It's not like you're not loaded with artifacts already.
Yeah. So you're saying model it on. Do any of those decks play green black, or are they generally mono?
Yeah. No. So they're sometimes they're most commonly mono green or green black. But this is sort of there's a few things that could potentially get you interested in white, and the Conclave, the mentor's already not that far off from Winding Constrictor.
Yeah, you would just change the Winding Constrictor for the green-white version and then add cards like this. I buy that. Just as long as there's a viable green-black version that we can pivot into green-white, I think that makes sense.
Yep. So the 1-drops, though, are not the only thing going on in this set, although they are a thing going on. One of the big talks that has everybody all up in a tizzy is the, we talked about Grief last week, the 3/2 menace that makes sure upon a discarded card that, basically unmask that you can,
the
ephemerate.
Insane ephemerate combo you talked about last week, yeah.
Right. So, dude, and we already talked about Subtlety, but man, what about Solitude? Solitude is the new white one. It's 3 white for a 3/2 flash lifelink elemental incarnation. When Solitude enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target creature. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power. So, optional Swords to Plowshares. And then it has Evoke, exile a white card from your hand.
Wow. So, flash, lifelink. You can flash this at Evoke speed by exiling, so that just makes it an instant speed potential kind of removal thing.
With no mana up.
Yeah.
Which, that could be really big, in particular if you're playing against somebody who does something like, for instance, plays Become Immense or Death Shadow.
Oh, wow,
right?
Yeah. It's awesome also. I think I'd rather just Solitude them on the first turn than get pinged by Ragavan too many times. Right? I think I'd just do it.
Yeah, you would force a will it.
Yeah.
Why not?
For sure.
Same sort of a thing. Yeah, this card's awesome.
This card's spectacular. It's I like it a lot. And I also just think that you're going to win some games with it as a 3/2 flash lifelink.
I also just think that Elemental is that's oh my god, the fact that Elementals, they were already a thing, but the fact that they suddenly just have this powerful form of interaction on the menu, that's really interesting.
Do you think that there's a possibility that people just play the Elemental engine from back in what set was that? Lorwyn?
Yeah, they already do. Like there's already elemental decks ever since Skelemental Lightning or whatever.
Oh yeah, I like that guy.
Lightning Skelemental. There's been a humans variant that instead of humans is elementals, and I think Solitude is like a powerful addition to that strategy.
Did we talk about Subtlety? I actually don't remember talking about Subtlety.
Okay, so Subtlety is the 2/2 3/3 flying flash. And then when Subtlety enters the back, yeah, we did. You didn't like it. Yeah,
I think I like it.
Oh, okay, good. You didn't like it last week, but I'm glad you've come around.
I like it.
Yeah. This card's the opposite of subtle, but that's part of the name is because it's a blue mage. Blue mages are like that. It's clever. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think Subtlety. It's a little weird that it can hit uncounterable stuff, but whatever. I guess it's something else it can do. We talked about Grief last week, but there's actually another discard card. No, we talked about Turok, didn't we? Yeah.
Oh, the forecast that costs Turok?
Well, 2 costs, but it can be 4. But hold on. So there is some other stuff that, like, kind of a different direction. Sivulun, God of Sea and Sky, is a 1 blue 3/4 legendary merfolk god. And if you control 2 other merfolk, Sivulun, God of the Sea and Sky, has indestructible. And when it attacks, draw a card. Other merfolk you control have ward 1, where stuff played on them is countered unless they pay 1. So, man, what do you think? So, first of all, a 3/4 for 3. Not enough, but that's like an efficient distribution of stats, right?
I think that you don't kick him out of the island for being 3/4 for 3. You keep
like
reading.
if you have a 3/4 for 3 that attacks to draw a card, not even has to hit, just attacks. Already, you're interested, right?
Yeah. I mean,
that's
I think this card is very good.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like you play this in a deck with Aether Vial? Like. What's the problem? It seems spectacular to me. Like, are you always going to have?
Down too.
You know what else is sweet? If you don't have 2 other merfolk in play and you vial 1 down when somebody's trying to kill Sivulun, God of Sea and Sky, with their point removal. Just kidding. He's indestructible.
Oh yeah. Or if somebody tries to kill your Lord of Atlantis and you vial this down. I mean, you just got all kinds of play. This card's quite strong and.
Wait, so if somebody like taps out to Terror, I'm just saying Terror, right? Dreadbore or whatever, your Lord of Atlantis, you can vial this guy down, he gains ward 1, and then they have to be able to pay for it on the spot?
Actually, you know what though? It won't trigger. It'll be too late. So you can't do it that way because it's a triggered ability. So it triggers when the permanent becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls. So you have to do it in response to the thing. Like, it would work against Ravenous Chupacabra, because, like, in response to the Chupacabra, although it wouldn't work that well because they would Chupacabra this guy. But,
so that portion is less exciting, but there are still many things that could be done that are sweet.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're talking about a 3/4 for 3 with all kinds of upside.
Yeah, and he's a merfolk. He's probably like a 5/6 in reality. Like, every creature who's not him in the deck is a crusade, right?
Yep.
I guess there's some crusade, like 80% crusades, 4 draw cards. That's like their deck right now.
What do you think of the reprint to Modern of Imperial Recruiter? Imperial Recruiter has had so many interesting jobs over the years, but to see the card reprinted, awesome, love it to begin with. But what could the implications be in a format like Modern? It's already sees a lot of play in Legacy. It's not like there's any question about the card's quality, but what's it going to do in a format? Obviously there's nothing like Allurin or something to crutch on, but you still have so many big hits, right?
I don't know. Like, to me, like, Imperial Recruiter is unattractive from casting cost and size and power. Its ability to be broken is predicated on being part of these engines that either don't care that it has terrible power to toughness ratio to casting cost, or don't care about its casting cost at all. Like you were talking about Allurin, for example.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is kind of a Goblin Matron, though, right? Like, Goblin Matron sees play, and it's the same sort of a thing. And it's not like, I mean, you say Goblin is good type, and I say Human is good type. And then you say, well, Goblin Matron goes and gets any Goblin. And I say, well, there are a lot more creatures with power 2 or less than there are Goblins.
Yeah.
This is a better Goblin Matron. And that's to say nothing of playing it, alongside, but that's a story for another day. So you're kind of cool on this one, huh?
Oh, I think this card is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying, like, I think that its ability to perform in other formats is they just have different engines that he can kind of Lego into. But we haven't had the opportunity to try him in Modern, so I don't know where I'd put him, right? Like, there's no Allurin in Modern.
Right. But, like, even in Legacy, he sees play in decks with, like, Painter's Servant, Grindstone, and Magus of the Moon, and, all that kind of stuff. And then other times it's shown up with, like, in a Survival of the Fittest deck.
Yeah, I think of this as a survival. Like, weren't you playing, like, a combo survival deck, like, way long ago before they banned Survival of the Fittest in the Dawn Ages?
Yeah. Yep, but, so, I don't know. I think this card's it's gonna find some homes. It's just too powerful. It's not broken necessarily, but it's too powerful to not find homes. What about Chatterfang, Squirrel General? And, 2 and a green, 3/3 Forest Walk. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus that many 1/1 green squirrels get created instead. And then it has black, sacrifice X squirrels. Target creature gets plus X minus X until end of turn.
I mean, like, this card, you just got to kill it on sight, right? Like, if it's in a properly constructed deck, like, you can't let somebody, like, untap twice with Chatterfang in play, I think. You will have a lot of squirrels and other tokens that you're dealing with. Like, this turns all kinds of mediocre cards into exorbitant amounts of power and toughness and blocking ability. I mean, he's got Forest Walk, and it's like a 3/3 for 3, which, as we all know, is the best casting cost to power and toughness ratio.
I think this card is sweet. I think that despite additional support from Squirrel Sovereign, which is the 1 and a green 2/2 Squirrel Noble, other squirrels you control get ++1, and the new green Cruise Santhem, Sylvan Anthem, which is the green creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a green creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. Despite these new tools, I'm not overly I mean, yeah, I guess there's even Squirrel Mob to help support the Squirrel Tribe, but we'll see. I'm open to the possibility, but I'm not overly optimistic on this one.
I don't want to just gloss over Sylvan Anthem either. Like, this card seems like it's like 25 years in coming. Like, why did it take us until 2021 to get a crusade for the creature color?
Had to pick the spot. Now that there's Counterspell. So I don't know. I think it's possible. It's a fine card. It's just not. It's not like Chatterfang Squirrel General is like efficiently distributed, right? Like, this is a pretty inefficiently distributed compared to how much power it has.
Yeah, I don't really want to play that card. I just think that you have to kill it on sight, or you're going to lose tokens.
It is a high value target. That is to be sure. There's some, we mentioned the Imperial Recruiter, but there's some other reprints that kind of raise an eyebrow. What do you think of Upheaval? Return all permanents to their owner's hands, not just lands, but all not just non-land, but actually all permanents.
I mean, Upheaval it was so powerful when it was in Standard. I don't know. Actually, is this the kind of card that can be really effective against, like, either make with or against decks that are deploying a lot of land, right? Like, if you had a Primeval Titan, for example, and you got to Upheaval faster, you would just recover faster, maybe, like, because of the construction of your deck. But it's also really good against people who have Primeval Titans in the wrong spot, right? Like, you make them pick up all these extra cards that they thought out. I kind of like it in both those spots.
It's pretty good with suspend cards.
It's Speaking of suspend cards, I'm actually not that excited about Upheaval, even though it was like one of the best cards in Standard. Gaia's Will, Patrick?
Yawgmoth's Will for value, dude. I thought of you as soon as I saw this card. I remember that Yawgmoth's Will deck you played all the way back in Saga Block. This is Yawgmoth's Will, basically, except it's green. And then instead of paying 2 and a black to cast it, you pay just a single green, but then you wait 4 turns, assuming you actually wait.
Yeah, I mean, assuming you don't cheat it, right? But it's just Yawgmoth's Will once it goes off.
Right.
This card is going to be really good, I think, with, like... I mean, if you're going to play value with, like, Baubles, I think those are cards that people already want to play. Do you think this is more going to just be played for kind of dirty storm tricks, or do you think it's going to be more value?
By the way, just to be clear, this is a slightly cleaned up Yawgmoth's Will, but it doesn't really matter. Under the hood, it is slightly different because, like, if a card would put in your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead of just when you're casting it, you know.
Oh, okay.
Like it, you know, and it works for your whole graveyard, not just, like, takes a picture. But functionally, it's got a Yawgmoth's Will.
For honest players, this is the same as Yawgmoth's Will.
Even for dishonest players, this is basically just Yawgmoth's Will.
I don't know. I think this card is just so spectacularly powerful. Got to figure out a way to do it. I don't know what that way is yet because I've never tried to plan for Yawgmoth's Will 4 turns in advance before.
I bet it's going to involve cheating the suspend like all the other ones.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing. It's like one of those TikTok videos. It's just like, tell me you have a Yawgmoth's Will, but didn't pay any mana for it.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of filth, what do you think about Calibrated Blast?
Okay. Talk to me about Calibrated
Blast. Calibrated Blast is 2 and an R for an instant. They've now 2 and an R and an instant.
Mm-hmm.
Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card.
Sounds like Erratic Explosion so far.
Yeah. Reveal a card on the bottom of your library in a random order. When you reveal a non-land card this way, Calibrated Blast deals damage equal to that card's mana value to any target. So it's in an instant Erratic Explosion for 2R. But wait, there's more. Flashback 3RR. So one of the limitations on Erratic Explosion back in the day was just getting a card that was expensive enough to kill somebody, right? So people typically did stuff with like Draco, which was, call it 16 damage, but you'd still need to get the last few damage in somehow. With this, there's all kinds of cards that are like in the neighborhood of 10 that you could do. I mean, if you're going to Emrakul them or whatever, you can do that. But then it has like a built-in way to finish the game.
Yeah. Yeah, plus, I mean, there's some other things you can do with expensive cards to really capitalize on the flashback. Like, imagine you have some way to just mill your deck, right? Then you end up with the only cards left in your deck are a couple of cards that cost like 10 or 11 or 12 or whatever. You know, some sort of Progenitus Blightsteel Colossus type, right?
Yeah.
And but in the course of flipping your deck, you have all these Calibrated Blasts in your graveyard. And that, you know, let's set aside the fact that you might have just already drained your opponent for 12, right?
Just 3
at a time. But you can just flashback Calibrated Blast and they're dead. Yeah.
That's spectacular.
This card seems great. I bet it'll see play. It's obviously a very, very niche card. You don't just throw this in your deck.
No. This is like
if this is what you're looking for, this is a great this.
This is the final domino. It's not like a box of dominoes. Tell me about Obsidian Charmaw.
So this one's a pretty sweet form of interaction. It's 3 red for a 4/4 flying dragon. Already, not so good. But it does have, with this spell, costs 1 less for each land your opponent controls that could produce colorless. That's interesting. And then when it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. So if you just have to pay 5 and you just have a 4/4 flyer that kills a non-basic land, that would see play in some standard formats, but it wouldn't be that good these days. I don't think that's really hitting. However, the fact that you can like play this on a discount, potentially a massive discount, like if you are on the play, you can just play this on turn 3 against, like, say you're playing against a Tron deck or Affinity or whatever, right? Like if you're playing against somebody who's got lots of, whether it's Urza's Mine or Mutable or Blinkmoth Nexus or even Battlefield Forge.
Yeah,
right?
Battlefield Forge. That's what I was thinking. Of course.
Whatever ones they have, you can just drop this and you've got yourself a 4/4 flyer on turn 3 and killed their land. That's like a pretty awesome sideboard card, compared to something like, say, Molten Rain.
I was thinking even like, those Scred decks, like some of them play like Sarkhan, some of them play like more Ponza-ish. They usually play like 5 casting cost 4/4 dragons at the top end. I mean, granted, they play dragons that don't easily bite the dust to pad the exile, but I think like this would just be a main deck card in those decks.
Maybe it would depend on the rest of the format. I don't know.
Playing dragons, they're already playing.
It is interesting. It is interesting that this works against Cavernous Souls, Unclaimed Territory. There's a lot more lands than you might realize that are just floating around with the ability to tap for colorless.
Yeah, I mean, there's like specialty lands people play, like that Blue-Red Lighthouse. People just play one in their deck, in their Blue-Red deck sometimes.
So I'm not that optimistic of it being a main deck option, but it's worth considering. It would depend on how the rest of the format shakes up.
I think in the world of zeros or ones, this one's a 1.
Yeah, more in the sideboard, but I'm with you. That card that makes clues, food, and treasure, Gifts of the Fae, 2 and a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of each end step, if you cast a creature and a non-creature spell this turn, you get a clue, a food, and a treasure. Crazy.
I love it. It's super sweet. I want to be able to do it. I can't imagine this is a good thing to do in a competitive Modern tournament.
Dude, this is so many. This is so many things. I think it's more of a commander card, but this card is sweet.
But how do you just not... I'm spending 3 mana to play Gifts of the Fae. If I'm lucky, I get paid off that turn, but probably I didn't. Right?
Dude, you're making 3 artifacts a turn.
Yeah, I'm dead. Like, turn 3,
so
I
what?
Gifts
You're
of the
playing
Fae.
Commander.
Oh, in Commander. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how
Dude,
that
you could end up with so many artifacts. And maybe they'll do anything.
I believe you. This seems spectacularly sweet. I mean, this is a Hershey's Kiss. It's so sweet, but I don't know, man. I don't think like if my opponent played this against me, I would just tap all my mana the next turn and they would die. And I don't even tell you what deck I'm playing because we both know it's true.
So what about the new, I guess, green land that makes everything forests? From the mines that originally made, Yawgmoth's Tomb of Yawgmoth. You've got Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, legendary land. Each land is a forest in addition to its other types.
It's a cool card.
This card's good, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly how it would work, right? Like,
what do you mean?
I mean when you play like Urborg, for example, Tomb of Yawgmoth, you do stuff where you're just like, first turn Urborg, Thoughtseize you, second turn Dark Depths, Vampire Hexmage. That stuff comes together.
Well, that's anything you do. There's a lot of other things you do with Urborg. For instance, if you're playing like a life
and corrupts
but
stuff.
If you've got a Life from the Loam deck, right? You already are trying to support triple red or triple green, and you have all these other lands. Being able to turn on Raven's Crime so that all your cards can, that's got a lot of use, right?
Yeah.
But let's suppose that you want to go a different way. You want to be able to ensure that you can play a triple green card in your Loam deck. Well, this card could help with that. Second of all, if you're playing just a lands deck, you don't necessarily actually want black mana at all, right? If you're playing 37 land or 42 land or whatever, but you want green, you love to have all those rinky-dink lands tapped for a green, right?
Absolutely.
And then there's combos. There's combos because of its ability to interact with forests. Like, for instance, what if you combine this with the reprint Queering Ranger? Green for a 1/1 Elf Ranger. When you can return a forest you control to owner's hand to untap target creature. Activate only once each turn. So if you have a Queering Ranger in play, which has good types, you can blink one of your lands. Like if you have a creature land or anything and they try to destroy it, being able to blink your lands, and in fact, you don't even just have to blink it in response to something. You could blink a land in order to get its ability twice, or you could blink a land in order to get an extra mana out of it. Now, you can already do that with whatever forest you have, but the ability to potentially do this with a different land is kind of interesting. Another thing you can do is really mess up your opponent's forests, right? Like, say... Yeah, because all their land counters as forests.
Defeat or whatever.
So to begin with, there's stuff like, if you can destroy whatever, anything that destroys forests or has forest walk. But there's also
forest walk. That squirrel guy has forest walk.
Yeah. But there's also just anything that turns forests into, like, for instance, there's the card that makes every forest into a 1/1. Everything's a forest saproing. And so if you make everything if every forest is a saproing and you make every land a forest, then you can play one of the cards that gives every creature -1/-1, and now your opponent's locked out.
Forever.
I mean, kind of you are too, but at least you have a thing,
Well, maybe you had a Crusade.
Nice.
Yeah, they gave Green a Crusade. Always thinking.
So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think this card will see plenty of play.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it is a powerful ability, and it's like no cost, right? It's basically free.
Well, sort of. You can't fetch it up or whatever, and it is a legend.
I agree on both factual counts, and still, I think it is very low in cost.
So here's a really weird card. Disapprove. 1 and a blue enchantment with flash, which is interesting. When Disapprove enters the battlefield, draw a card. Creatures lose all abilities. And at the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice Disapprove.
It seems kind of cool to me.
Yeah, but it's very unusual, right?
Yeah, like everything about it is weird, right? So it acts kind of like an instant.
Well, it definitely is an instant. Like, in particular, if your opponent plays a creature with an enters the battlefield trigger, right? Like, when your opponent puts on the stack a Solitude or a Subtlety or a Grief or whatever, you can, like, respond with this card, and then your card won't trigger.
Yeah, they just discarded a card, probably. That's actually awesome.
Well, if they discarded a card, then, yeah, it still gets them, though.
Yeah, it gets them good.
Yeah. But it's not just that. You can also just break up lots of combos with this, right? And it's a cantrip anyway.
Like any creature-based combo.
And it's not like this card isn't just effective against normal decks, right? Like, for 2 mana, I mean, this isn't necessarily what you want to be doing, but, like, you do kind of shut off every Merfolk Lord, right? And all the humans kind of become dorks. And you can get out of whatever hate bears on you. And a lot of creatures might actually just die, like
modular
and then
creatures,
some shrink.
Right?
Well, they still have all the counters on them.
Oh, okay.
No, you need stuff like, for instance, Tarmogoyf becomes a 0/1. There's some really awesome stuff, but one of the things I think is the coolest is that if you have Death Shadow, this just turns Death Shadow into a 13/13 for the turn.
Love it.
Right? Like, that's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah, but you would
and likewise with the with the
you would need
Death
some
Shadow.
Setup for that, though. Like, you would need to give that Shadow haste or something.
No, you just already have the Death Shadow in play.
Yeah, but I want a Death Shadow that would otherwise have been too small. I want him to go.
Yeah, it's like a 1/1 or a 2/2, and it's like surprise.
Oh, like as a giant growth.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. I'm in for that. That's cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of. I mean, this card's interesting, and who knows? I mean, enchantment. You could do some interesting combos with this card, and the fact that it's a cantrip, That's interesting. It's a weird card, but it's interesting.
It turns off Emrakul, right? It could turn off his Annihilator, and then you could also target him.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, you're taking 15, dude. Like,
it's way better than getting Annihilated also.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I know that you love this kind of stuff, but you can't possibly be in for Whirlweary, right? The 3 black, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -4/-4 with basic land cycling of 1 and a black.
I thought long and hard about that basic land cycling card in particular, and no. Even I can't.
I know.
It's
you do
too
love
expensive.
That kind of stuff, right?
I was like the biggest like random like what was the black swamp cycling one from Onslaught? It was just like a mediocre creature.
Twisted Abomination.
Yeah, I had so many Twisted Abomination decks. Yeah, this one's not good enough. None of those are very exciting of the basic land cycling cycle, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they are just commons. I think that they're most exciting for Pauper.
What do you think about the wizard cycling guy?
So talk to me about the wizard cycling guy. So, like, what do you think?
I think it is secretly excellent. So step through is 3 UU, sorcery, return 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. So it's undo, but for 5 instead of for 3. And at 3, it wasn't really good enough for constructed back in 1997. So why are we still talking? It has this ability, Wizard Cycling 2. So colorless Wizard Cycling 2, not any kind of blue. And you can discard this card, search your library for a wizard, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle. So number 1, anybody can play this, right? So theoretically, you could have like a mono green or a mono red or a mono white deck, and they could play step through for purposes of wizard cycling. I think that's really interesting. Obviously, this is probably going to be played more in blue than in other colors because blue has the most good wizards. But like, let's say you had 6 mana, you could wizard cycling for a Venser to like counter somebody's thing, or you could wizard cycling for Snapcaster Mage, and then like you're like, let's say you had 5 mana, right? But there's a Spell Pierce in your graveyard. You're like, step through, Snapcaster Mage, Spell Pierce. Like, it just seems like it flows really well together to me. You could play like weird one-offs. Like if you were going to play like 4 step throughs, like between deck and sideboard, you could have something like Niv-Mizzet Perun for the kind of control mirror match. Like you just wizard cycling for Niv-Mizzet Perun, and then you just cast it. Neither one of those abilities is counterable. So like even if they can answer it, which they might or might not be able to, depending on how much mana you have open and what interactions you have, like they're at a dramatic disadvantage. Like their best case scenario is probably to give you a free card. You can play Gadwick, like as a nobody plays a lot of Gadwicks in Modern, but you could play 1, get a reload on that. But like think about non-blue decks, like think about white decks. Burrington Forge Tender is a wizard. Like Viashino Pyromancer is a wizard. So you can theoretically step through for a shock. I don't know. I think this card is way better than Clunky Drek.
We'll see. I really think at the end of the day, you got to really value, a wizard tutor for 2 could have a day, particularly if you have a 2-piece combo. Get yourself a nice little 2-piece dinner. But I think that's about the extent of it. I think
it's just like redundancy in a combo deck that requires having a wizard in play. Yeah, it increases your frequency of having like a goblin.
It's a tutor. If your combo is wizards, that's okay. I don't think it's like anything spectacular, but it's got a niche. Dude, what's up with General Ferris Rokirkik? 1 red-white for a 3/1, hexproof from monocolor, legendary human soldier, and whenever you cast a multicolor spell, get a 4/4 red and white golem artifact creature. What?
Yeah, like the first several lines were like, no big deal. But then...
Dude, it's not like the top part's a joke either, but man, the 4/4 doesn't die at the end of the turn.
Yeah,
it's not just the first time per turn. It's every single time.
There are a lot of multicolored spells that a red-white deck might want to cast.
And even as far as monocolor goes, it's not like this guy doesn't trigger your hero of Precinct 1.
Yeah.
And human soldiers good types, man.
I mean, but like in this format, like if you were just going to go like a creature-based deck, there are tons of creatures you could play. You could play like, I don't know, Boros Reckoner, probably more exciting.
Dude, what? Why aren't you just playing like Meddling Mage and Mantis Rider? Well, you're just playing a humans deck, man.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess you could do that.
Yeah, you can play the new Orzhov Quasi Meddling Mage, and you got Meddling Mage, Mantis Rider, all the like Reflector Mage. Absolutely.
Is this guy? This guy's just the new gold standard for humans offense, then?
Well, he costs 3, and the bar is pretty high at 3.
I mean,
but this guy seems fantastic.
Him or Tajic.
And he's even got like this protective ability that's like no joke.
Yeah.
But you can't just kill this guy with a lot of spot removal.
Him or Tajic.
This guy's real good. I'm a 1 on this one.
Yeah, I think it's good too.
Man, I don't know. So there's so many powerful cards. This is just like, I don't know. This set, man, they definitely once they got to the spot. Oh, here's a reprint with your name all over it. Patriarch's Bidding. 3 black sorcery. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of the chosen type from their graveyard to the battlefield.
So this card was most popular in Standard as a Goblin deck, right? You'd play Skirk Prospector, make a ton of mana, bidding, loop, get them real good with some triggers and damage. But it was also played as a zombie bidding and beast bidding decks in larger formats. So you could bidding up to kill somebody if you had a certain combination of creatures in your graveyard that would give haste and enormous amounts of power, for example.
So what do you think? Are you into this one?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think it's shift minus. I mean, I'm open-minded. It's a card I'll think about.
Like when this card was good, like there was no rest in peace yet.
Dude, here's a card that looks like, man, I hope this card doesn't get you. Discerning Taste. 2 and a black. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You gain life equal to the greatest power among creature cards put into your graveyard this way.
How could it not get me?
Dude, when they just gain 15...
And you really just ran the rub-ins on that one.
And it's not like Impulse is like a bad move, right? And it's not even Impulse. Like, you're getting to fill your graveyard with action.
There's mad value on this card. It is still a 2-mana card that doesn't affect the battlefield directly. But
it's a 3-mana card that doesn't affect the battlefield directly.
Oh, well. That's worse.
True.
It would still get me, though. Last one, I think this is the card of my heart. I don't think it's the best card, but I think it could be good. Gareth One-Eye.
I knew you were going to talk about old One-Eye.
Werberg, 5/5, legendary creature, human wizard. And he has this tap ability. Tap. Choose a card name that hasn't been chosen from among Disenchant, Brain Geyser, Terror, Shivan Dragon, Regrowth, and Black Lotus. Create a copy of the card with the chosen name. You may cast the copy. I don't know, man. It seems like if they didn't kill it, you could have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's even a human wizard, too.
Do you think this is just a commander card?
That's a pretty dope commander card.
Like I like this. It's just, I love the card. I love the feel of it. 5/5 for Werberg. It has this.
Dude, you can like anything that say cheats humans out of the top of your deck. And gives them haste. This is like a. I mean, I guess it doesn't give them haste; it makes them attack. But this guy's a human.
It is, but it has like I'm like, oh, I just tap make a Black Lotus and then tap make a Brain Geyser. That's so cool. I could just terror in a pinch. Just tap make a Shivan Dragon. Like he is a buddy.
Dude, I know what I want to use the Black Lotus on.
Tell me.
It's the Brain Geyser.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Dude, here, it has to be one more card. This one last card, dude, it's just, this isn't the best either, but it has your name all over it. Road Ruin. 2 and a green, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. But it also, in your graveyard, you can play it as a sorcery that's 1 red, and you exile, 1 red, Ruin deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control.
I don't love it that much at all.
You don't, dude, you like Scred. This is better than Scred.
But I like Scred in a mono red deck.
Dude, if you have, okay, so first of all,
I mean, first of all, I don't like Scred in Modern. I like Scred in Standard. Other people play Scred in Modern.
Dude, when you are playing a graveyard deck, this is a kill spell that you can like dredge into. Right?
Yeah, I don't like anything that makes dredge even better.
How about this? Second of all, you're playing a Primeval Titan deck, right?
Okay.
So this is like a ramp card for your deck, right? But then you weirdly just also have removal now.
I like that. That's pretty cool. I mean, Aftermath is
the play a land card is even an instant. Surprise your opponent by putting yourself ahead of schedule.
Do you ever want to be casting a 3 casting cost rampant growth in Modern? It just seems very slow to me.
Yeah, dude. We're playing Primeval Titan decks, man.
Put me down as a 0 for Road Ruin.
Well, we will come back to this episode.
Okay, let's do that. What's your favorite?
What is my favorite? I mean, Counterspell?
All right. Acceptable.
What's your favorite?
Oh, that Monkey guy. Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer.
I'm in for that guy.
That guy's so good. It's so
sweet.
good. Double Ophidian, 1 mana, 2 damage. Also, dodges sorcery speed removal. Haste. Insane.
All right. I sure hope Solitary Confinement doesn't get played. See you next week, dude.
Bye-bye.
Right. Later, man.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play dredge, so